Hey, what's good, everybody? I'd like to welcome you all back to the BoomBox Guru channel. I'm your host, LB. Today, man, I got a brand new episode of BoomBox Talk. This is actually BoomBox Talk number 9. I know it's been a long time since I've done one of those BoomBox Talk episodes. I don't even know why I even stopped doing them. Because I really enjoy doing the BoomBox Talk episodes because it's not as I guess you could say it's more freedom when I do these episodes because I'm doing these pretty much raw and on the whim. I'm really just talking from my heart when I do these Boombox Talk episodes, and y'all can expect a few more coming because I've got a few ideas in my data bank of different like topics that I want to touch on just raw and pure and unadulterated on with those episodes, man. But today's episode, I wanted to talk about one of my favorite metal bands, and that's System of a Down. I wanted to really talk about how I became a fan of System of a Down, and I've done a couple. I think I've done maybe one or two videos about System. I know I did a ranking video, maybe like three or 4 years ago, where I ranked their albums. They're just a band that I really enjoy listening to. I was pretty much late. I was pretty much late to the party though when it comes to System because when I got into the band, they weren't even putting out any new music. They had went on hiatus, but I think around the time that I did really start digging into their discography, they had reunited and started doing shows again. Uh, so yeah, I was a bit late, but and also when System first came out, when they first burst on the scene, they weren't even on my radar. Like as big as they were, and big as they still are today. I don't know how I missed them, cause Chop Suey was a huge song back in the early 2000s. So I think I might have saw that video briefly one time on MTV too, but it was at that one part where they were kind of doing like the weird kind of like shape shifting thing. You all know what I'm talking about. It was like at that part, and I think I might have saw that part, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" And I turned it. Uh, but yeah, the first album, I don't even remember the first album coming out, and I don't know how I missed that, man. Because 1998, I was watching a lot of MTV at that time, so I don't know how I missed that. But anyway, my I guess my real introduction into System of a Down was when I was in high school. I had a friend at that time. He listened to the band. Uh, I would probably say they were one of his favorite bands to listen to. I know he would talk about them a lot, but how I got introduced to him was me and him had a class together. We had a couple of classes together, but this had to be, I think this was around 2005, maybe 2005. I'm thinking, or 2006. I don't remember. Uh, I think it had to be around junior year. I can't quite remember because like my senior year started like in 2006. Like I don't know. Anyway, we had a computer class together. It was fourth period. It was our last class of the day, and the teacher we had, she was pretty cool. She was a good teacher, and she was pretty cool. And this was 2005 or six, so this was around the golden era of YouTube. This was when YouTube was really popping off, but it hadn't really got strict. So anytime we were like finished with our assignments in class, she would let us go on the internet and like surf the web, go on YouTube as long as we weren't looking at anything that was inappropriate. She would let us do that as long as we were done with our work and we wasn't looking at anything that was inappropriate. And she would also let us listen to music on the computers too. So he sat like maybe a seat over from me. It was maybe one or two people. No, I think he was right beside me actually. But I think he had a System of a Down CD or something, or he was listening to something on the YouTube. He was like watching one of their videos or something, and I remember I heard like a really heavy riff and a fast tempo that sounded interesting to me, and I turned to him. I was like, "Yo, man, who was that?" And he was like, "System of a Down." I said, "Let me hear a little bit of that." And so he pulled the speaker over and let me hear it. And I don't even remember what song it was. I can't even tell you what song it was. I know it was probably one of the songs on one of the albums, of course. But I remember the riff being really heavy. I liked it, the riff, and I liked it, the tempo. But as soon as Surge's voice came in, I was like, I don't know about that. It threw me off because if you heard the riff and the tempo that I heard, I was expecting something a little more aggressive, a little bit with a little bit more oomph to it. And Surge's voice just totally threw me off at that time. I wasn't ready for that. So it sounded like silly to me, at that time. That's how I thought about it at that time. But when Surge's voice came in, it threw me off, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I ain't really feeling that. So that was pretty much it for me and System of a Down at that time. But I remember my friend at the time, he would bring them up a lot. He put me onto a few like rock bands and metal bands around that time. I know he introduced me to Flyleaf around that time or later. I can't remember. I know he introduced me to Flyleaf and a couple of other bands. But anyway, like years later, this is way after high school, man. This is like the 2010s. I want to say maybe around 2011, 2012. I'm gonna say 2011. But at this point, man, my musical taste has really grown. I'm really like kind of going back to like things that I liked as a kid, because I actually liked a lot of rock music when I was a kid. So I'm going back and I'm revisiting the like bands that I used to enjoy, and like just really reintroducing myself to this stuff, reintroducing myself to a lot of that stuff, like Motley Crue, Twisted Sister, Guns N' Roses, stuff like that. And it's also leading me to other stuff that I didn't know about. So my musical taste was growing, and I decided to revisit System of a Down. And I think what sparked my interest to do that was I was on YouTube, and I saw this clip of a live show that they were doing. It wasn't a show in Armenia. I know all about that Armenian show. That's a classic. That's a legendary concert that they did in Armenia. But I'm pretty sure this was a show somewhere here in the States. I don't know if it was like a tour, if it was their show, or if they was a part of some type of festival. I don't know what it was, but I just remember I don't know if it was the song Aerials or if it was Toxicity. I forget which song it was. At that time, I probably wouldn't have really known. But I remember I watched the clip, and it was a sea of people. It was a sea of people out in that audience, and everybody was just singing word for word the song. I mean, they had that whole crowd just singing along with them. That everybody in that whole crowd was just into it. So I sat there and I watched that clip, and I was thinking like, man, I think I really need to try to get into this band. I got to figure out what it was I was missing back in the day that made me not want to like go further into their music. I said, because they got such a huge and loyal fan base. There's something about this band that clicks with so many people. So I actually made it my mission to get into System of a Down. And around this time, so this might have been like 2012, or this might have been like 2012 or 2013 actually. But I was actually going. I had started going to this record store in Charlotte called Manifest. A lot of people from Charlotte, even maybe other areas outside of Charlotte, people who are just music lovers probably know about this place called Manifest. It was in Charlotte for a long time. They went out of business, I think, back in 2021. Really missed that store. One of the best record stores I've ever been to since Media Play was around. But anyway, I started going down there. I started frequenting that store because they had a really great inventory of new music as well as used physical music, CDs, vinyl, and stuff like that. Real cool store. Really miss it. So I started going down there at the time, and I was really into their used section, because their used section was one of the best used sections I've ever seen. I mean, I got so many rare CDs that are out of print, that are still out of print to this day from their used section. But I remember I went down there browsing one day, and I was like, you know what? Let me see if they got some System of a Down for a good price in the used section. And at first I couldn't find them because I was expecting System of a Down to be in the metal section, but they didn't have them categorized in the metal section. They had them in the rock section. So I went to the rock section and found their section, System of a Down, and they pretty much had, I think, all 5 of their albums in that section for use. So I bought the first album. So I went and bought the first album. This one right here, the self-titled album. I bought this for $5.99. Still got the sticker on the case. Cause typically when I'm getting into a band, I typically like to start at the beginning and work my way up. But there are some times where I'll start like at the end, at the most recent album, and work my way back, or I'll start with an essential album that's considered like a real important album in their catalog and start from there. But I started with this album. I started with the first album, System of a Down, and so I bought it and I put it in my car, and I was digging it. I liked it, the opening song, Sweet Pea. I liked it, that opening riff and the rhythm and everything like that. Uh, I still hadn't quite gotten used to Surge's voice just yet. His voice came in. It still was throwing me off a little bit, but not like it did back when I was in high school. So I was able to tolerate it at that point. It was tolerable at that point. Um, so I spent like I guess like a couple of weeks with this album, and I think one day I decided to put the album in, and something, it just clicked. It just clicked with me. It just clicked with me. I really started to get used to what I was hearing. I started to pick up on a lot of things. The first thing I really liked about the album was I liked it Darren's heavy riffs. I really liked it, his heavy riffs. I liked it the rhythms. I liked it how they were just experimental, how they would have a heavy kind of thrash influence type of style, and then they would quickly revert to like a kind of quirky Armenian folk music. That stuff started to interest me. It started to interest me, and then Serge, I started to really appreciate Serge more as a vocalist, because this album right here is where he used a lot of like harsher vocals on this album. I mean, he still had the classic Serge style that we know, but he was a lot more aggressive on this record. He was a lot more aggressive on this record than he was on other ones, on the subsequent albums or the albums afterwards. Especially when he employed like a lot of like low gutturals that were almost like death metal on quite a few songs throughout this record. So that right there started it right there for me, where I liked it, the thrashiness of it, because I am a fan of thrash metal. I liked it, that, and it just really made me appreciate it. I was like, okay, yeah, this band is awesome. I really like them. So also around that time, I watched a documentary on YouTube. It was called Get Thrashed, the story of Bay Area thrash metal. I think that's the title. And there was a part in that documentary where they were talking to Scott Ian of Anthrax. I think they were talking about like the lasting influence of thrash metal, how thrash metal has influenced other genres of metal and other music. And he brought up System of a Down, and he started talking about their second album, Toxicity. Started talking about this album, and he was saying that basically that Toxicity is a thrash metal album. He was saying if you listen to those tempos and those riffs and those rhythms, it's a thrash metal album. And not only that, but a close friend of mine, someone I'm still friends with to this day, one day we were talking about the album, and he was saying that, yeah, that Toxicity album, I know a lot of elitists kind of hate on that record, but if you listen to it, it's basically a thrash metal album. So that sparked my interest into getting Toxicity, and so I went back to Manifest again and hit that U section and got Toxicity. And Toxicity, this is the band's best-selling record, their best-selling album, I believe. It was huge. This is the one that had Chop Suey, which I think a lot of people would say is System's signature song. But aside from Chop Suey, there's so many great songs on here. But I can remember when I bought this album, it immediately clicked with me. As soon as I put it into my CD player and the music came on, the first song, Prison Song, it just hit me like, oh man, this band is so awesome. Like that riff and that tempo, so thrashy, and then like the kind of quirkiness that they added in there, while also talking about a serious subject such as the prison industrial complex. And then I liked the chorus. My favorite part of the chorus is where Serge starts using those low gutturals again. He's like, woo, woo, like I don't know what he's saying, but it's like woo, woo. I can't do it as good as he did it, but that part was like, oh man, that's just so awesome. Him doing that, like him switching from like his sort of like operatic style and clean style and going to those gutturals, because the way Serge does that, the way he switches on and off like that, he just does it like he just make it seem like it's so easy. That just shows just how it just really showed just how talented, how it just shows how talented of a singer he is. It just really shows us how his range as a singer. And and that song itself really started. I really started to respect Surge even more as a vocalist and as a frontman, because that really showcased his range as a vocalist. Like, man, this dude can do anything. And you know, Surge really isn't even a metal guy. Surge is not even really a metal guy. He's not really into metal like that. And for him to do that though, for him to have that ability to do that just amazed me. But so many great songs on here, man. Like, you know, you got Needles, Dear Dance, Jet Palette, Bounce. Bounce is one of my favorite songs, man. The subject matter is crazy. I think it's about a threesome or something like that, or orgy. I don't know, but let's see. Forest, man, Shimmy, Aerials, Toxicity, the title track. I know Toxicity is a huge song, but I never get tired of that song. That's one of my favorites from the band. You know, Science, Atwa. Like, this whole entire album was just phenomenal, man. So this right here, this is where I really was like, okay, man, I really dig this band. I really like these guys. So that's where it really went. All right, so after that, man, I was hooked. So after hearing Toxicity, man, I was hooked. I was like, man, I got to get more from this band. So the next album, I know the next album was still this album. Next album was still this album, but I didn't actually get this album next. I didn't actually get Still This Album next. I didn't. And I'll explain later why I didn't get it next. So the album I actually got next was Mesmerize. Mesmerize was the next one that I got. This album, this is my favorite. This is my favorite System of a Down album. Mesmerize, excuse me, had it backwards. Mesmerize is my favorite. This is my favorite System of a Down album. I think, hey, some of y'all might argue with me, some of y'all might disagree, but hey, it's my opinion. But I think that Mesmerize is System's best album. I really do. I think it's so consistent throughout. It's not even that long of an album. I think it's like about around like 30 minutes long. But they don't waste no time on this record. There's no filler on this album. Every song is just awesome. It's hard for me to pick favorites sometimes. Because I was just listening to this album the other day. Maybe actually yesterday as of the recording of this video. And man, I was listening to it on my way to work and on my way home from work. And man, the whole while I was like, man, this is amazing. This is just a great record. Like, what I really enjoyed so much about this record, man, was like Darren's riffs on here really shined, in my opinion. Like, he added so much melody to the riffs, but he kept it so heavy. And his tone on this record, I just really dug his tone on that record, man. Like, and again, this got one of my favorite System songs on here, man. BYOB is on here. I actually think BYOB is better than Chop Suey. You know, that's just my opinion, though. I think BYOB is better than Chop Suey. I will take that song any day over Chop Suey. I'm not trying to throw shade on Chop Suey. That's a great song, but it's just that we've heard that song so many times. BYOB, for me, that's the one. I mean, because if you listen to that track, that's basically a thrash metal, speed metal song. Listen to that track. Listen to the tempos during like the verses and the chorus and like, I know it has that one part in the song where it kind of goes a little like new metal or alternative metal, but for the most part, you listen to the tempos, it's thrash and speed metal. That's what I like about that song. It almost has a little bit of a classic heavy metal sound to it in some parts, man. That's what I like about that song so much. But man, Revenger, another dope song. Let's see here. Radio Video is a great one. This Cocaine Makes Me Feel Like I'm on This Song. That's a real great one. Violent Pornography. Violent Pornography is one of my favorites on here too. Like Darren's riffs, man. Listen to Violent Pornography. Listen to that song. Listen to Darren's riffs on that song. His riffs are so melodic and heavy, man. Listen to the tone that he uses, especially during the chorus. It's during the chorus parts. That's my favorite part of the song, is during the chorus when him and Serge are singing the chorus. Like, dude, listen to his tone. Listen to the heaviness. Listen to it's heavy, it's melodic, and it's kind of crisp. Listen to that tone, man. That tone is just so crazy. Question, Sad Statue, old school Hollywood. That's a great one, man. where he's talking about I think Darren participated in some kind of celebrity baseball game, but he was with a bunch of I think he was with a bunch of has-been like celebrities though, like maybe I shouldn't say has-been, but he was people that used to be popular like maybe in the 80s or something like that. I think Tony Danza was there or something like that. Lost in Hollywood is a great ending. Great ending. I just really did this album. I personally think that Mesmerize is their best album. I remember when I ranked these albums like a few years ago, I had this at number one, and it's gonna stay number one. It's gonna stay number one. Mesmerize is gonna stay number one. And then after that, by the time once I heard Mesmerize, they System was my favorite band at that point. They were one of my not the favorite band, but they were one of my favorite bands. They were on my list of one of my favorite bands. So after that, of course, I got Hypnotized, because I think both of these albums came out within the same year, but like just few months apart. Hypnotized, and this is the band's most recent album. I'm gonna be honest with you, Hypnotized. It's only been recently in the past couple of years that I've really spent a lot more. I've been spending time with it. I don't. It's a good record. It's a good record. I don't like it as much as Mesmerize though. Like Mesmerize, like I said, that's my favorite System of a Down album. But this is a good record. It's not as radio friendly as Mesmerize is. This one is a little. I think most people consider it to be a little bit underrated. But there's a few songs on here that I know I like. Attack, Kill Rock and Roll, Hypnotize. Let's see here. Holy Mountains is a good one. Vicinity of Obscenity. Lonely Day, which I think Lonely Day was a single. But it's a good record. It's a good record. I just think Mesmerize, between the two, Mesmerize is the best one. But some people may disagree. Some people may like Hypnotize. And you can put these albums together and they become like a double album. You see? They become like a double album. I thought that was really cool. And that's essentially what this album is. It's a double album that was just released separately, honestly. But it was pretty cool. But I bought those three, and then I went ahead to, because I'm a completist. I had to get one, two, three. Yeah, I'm a completist. So I went and got Still This album. I got this last. Now I remember before I even got into System of a Down, I used to see this at Walmart all the time. This album, I used to see it at Walmart all the time. Of course, at that time, Walmart was selling censored music. Walmart sells uncensored music now. About time, because hey, you gonna sell violent movies and video games, but you can't sell an uncensored Eminem CD. Come on. But anyway, Still This album was the last one that I bought. So I'm gonna tell you why Still This album was the last one that I bought. For a long time, like when I got into System of a Down, for a while, I looked at this album as being more of like a B-sides outtakes album, like a compilation of like songs that they recorded that they just wanted to throw out there. And that's really not the case. I remember watching the interview that Darren, I think it was just Darren and Serge. No, I think all of them was there actually. But the interviewer, I think this album had just came out in that interview. It was an old interview at that point. But he brought up about how, Still This album, a B-sides outtakes album, man. Darren quickly corrected him and was saying, no, that's not true. This is not a B-sides outtakes album. It's an actual studio album. And he's right. It is an actual studio album. I'm not just saying that because System of a Down is one of my favorite bands now. But most System fans know the story behind this album. Toxicity blew up. Toxicity was a huge record. And what happened was, around the early 2000s, that's when the whole Napster thing was still happening. That's when the whole MP3 file sharing stuff was really putting a hurting on the industry, man. It was really putting a hurting on the industry. And System of a Down it got them. You know what I'm saying? It got them. Somebody leaked a whole bunch of unfinished songs that they were demoing and working on during the sessions of Toxicity, and it was a bootleg floating around called Toxicity 2. And the band, they were really upset because they take pride and put it and working on their music and making sure that their fans get the best. And they were upset that there was unfinished music out there that their fans were getting a hold of. So what they did was they went back and they reworked these songs and they finished them and turned them into full-fledged songs, and they put out this record. You know, but still, this album has actually become one of my favorites. Actually, I listen to it a lot. I mean, it's still it's still a bit disjointed compared to the other records in my opinion, but there's a lot of great songs on here. There's a lot of great songs, and I always liked the packaging. The packaging, I always liked it. Very, very stripped down. I really dug it. You know, it's almost like they were kind of like poking fun at what had happened to them as far as like the bootlegs that were floating around. Because even before I got in the system, this packaging always caught my attention. But I kind of like how they did that. I really dug how they done that. But a lot of great songs on here, man. You know, Chicken Stew, Inner Vision, Boom. Let's see here. American Dream Denial, IEA, AEIO, Mr. Jack. Let's see, F the System. That song right there. There's a part in the song where they kind of break down into like this like kind of slow groove, and Darren's riff on there is just crazy, man. It's like this heavy like groove. Let's see here. Streamline is a great one too. I mean, it's not like the greatest solo, but I like that really cool kind of simple solo. Well, I shouldn't say simple. It's not like a very complex and extravagant solo, but there's a really cool melodic solo that Darren does like towards the end of that song that I really enjoy. Roulette is a great song. Roulette is not even a heavy metal song. It's an acoustic track with Serge mainly singing, but him and Darren doing the hook. I really like that song. On the right kind of day, that song, it really gets me, man. Not like I'm crying or anything, but it just relates to me, depending on what's on my mind at that time. But I really dig that. But yeah, still, this album is really great. Really dig this album. It's actually become one of my favorites. Actually, right up there with Mesmerize. I mean, I know I ranked it like it's in like 5 on that video, but I really like that. I really like still this album a lot more these days than I did when I made that video. But yeah, man, you know, System of a Down. Really enjoy this band. One of the greatest bands out there. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like them and so forth, especially in metal. You know, in the metal scene, I know there's a lot of people that are kind of like, well, they're not really a metal band, or I don't know, those guys suck or whatever. But hey, you know what? To each his own. You know, I like all types of metal. You know, if it resonates with me and I dig the music, I'm gonna support it. I like System. I just like the avant-garde nature of their sound. I like how they don't sound like the typical metal band, and that's what really helped me to appreciate them more and really helped me to become a fan of them. Is I realized that they weren't the typical metal band. I remember I watched an interview that Rick Rubin did with Zane Lowe, and System of a Down came up. It was in that part of the interview, System of a Down came up, and Zane Lowe asked him about, you know, him discovering System and signing them, and Rick said that he saw them at the Viper Room in L.A. because, you know, that's where System was from. They're from L.A. He saw them at more specifically Glendale, but still, I guess L.A. County. But he saw them at the Viper Room. They were performing, and he thought they were funny. Not that funny like they were terrible or anything. It's just that they were just different, man. You know, they was doing like this folky. They was blending this folky stuff with the heavy metal and things of that nature, and they didn't look like your typical metal band and stuff like that. They were different, and the way he broke it down in that interview really changed my perspective on them. It really changed my perspective on them, and I respect them for being different. I respect them for how they've brought a lot of awareness to the Armenian genocide. You know, their native country. You know, it wasn't the Kardashians that brought that out. It was a System. System were the ones that really were the first ones to really bring a lot of awareness to that whole issue of the Armenian genocide, man. And I like how they can have a sense of humor. I like how they can be quirky, but they can also really be talking about something with substance. really bringing awareness to all types of issues in the world, even outside of their own, like the whole Armenian genocide. Even outside of that, they tackle other issues in the world. Chop Suey is about, I want to say it's not like an anti-drug song, but it's about how some people have said that people who use drugs like deserve to die or something like that. I forget what it was. Something to that nature. It's related to that, but I just like how they use a quirkiness but they're able to like really make you think about stuff. Like Prison Song. Prison Song's about the industrial prison complex. So many great things that they've done with their music. And honestly, man, if they never put out another album, I'm fine. But it would be great if they did put out some new music. I mean, they did put out some new music a few years ago because of the whole war that's happening right now in their native country of Armenia. They put out, what's that, Genocide, Humanoids, and Promised Land. Yeah, Promised Land was good. I think is that song called Promised Land? I think it is. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. But I know that Promised Land, that song was the best one. I liked that one the best. I've heard a few of the solo stuff that the members have done. Mainly Shavo. Shavo seems to be the most active when it comes to doing solo material. Him and Surge. Shavo's had a few projects. I liked that North Kingsley thing he did. He's got a new band now. I can't think of their name right now. They're pretty heavy. I heard that one song they put out. Surge. Surge is really not a metal guy. I know he put out that one album called Elected Dead that was heavy metal. But all his other stuff, man, is around like prog rock, very experimental stuff. Darren, Scars on Broadway. The first album was pretty cool. Second one was cool. I haven't really listened to John. He did a band. He has a band. They did like a covers album. I didn't really check that out. But John's also a businessman. He owns like a comic book company, I believe, and he promotes it a lot on his Instagram and stuff of that nature, man. But yeah, I just really like this band. I really enjoyed this band. I might have been late to the party and getting into them, but better late than never. I'm glad at least all the members are still alive right now, and at least they're still doing shows. And that's really my thing, man. I really want to see System of a Down live. They are a bucket list band for me. I want to see them live. But anytime they do shows or they tour, they don't really come my way that much. They usually keep it out towards the west. I think when they do come, like, they don't really come to the southeast, man. They usually go to the northeast. I think they hit like New York City, like those major markets, man. But dude, if they came to Charlotte, bro, that's gonna, man, that would be huge. Man, they would probably have to do that at they would have to do that at one of the stadiums, probably, man. Like, they probably have to do that at Spectrum, or I don't know, maybe Bank of America Stadium. I think System could pull that off, but they would have to do that at one of the big places. They couldn't do that like at PNC or something like that. I mean, PNC is cool, but they would have to do that like at Spectrum or something like that, because they're huge, and they for sure couldn't do it at like a small venue. They for sure couldn't do it like at the Fillmore or Amos and South End. No way they could do that. But I really would like to see them live, man. So I mean, if they never put out another album, that's cool. But if I can get to see them live, man, Lord willing, man, that would be awesome, man. That would be a heck of an experience. But yeah, man, that's all I really want to talk about today on this episode, this comeback episode of BoomBox Talk, man, number 9. Just wanted to talk about one of my favorite metal bands, System of a Down, and how I got into them. And yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this. This was a lot of fun, man. Ain't no mic to it. I think I'm gonna do more episodes of the BoomBox Talk, man. I think I'm gonna do more because this is really cool, talking about them. And I think you might could say this was a kind of a lightweight discography review on System, man. So I might put this on my discography review playlist, man. But I appreciate everybody that tuned into the video. So, if you did like this video, if you could just hit that thumbs up, give me a like. If you could share this video as well as subscribe to the channel, it does help out a lot. And I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody that's been subscribing to the channel, everybody that's been watching the videos. Those of you who have been leaving really positive comments on the videos, I really appreciate it, because I never really expect anybody to see these videos. But I appreciate it. No matter how big, no matter how small, it all counts for me. And as always, I hope everybody has a blessed day, a blessed week, and love, peace, and music. Peace out, y'all.